All right, this year, 2021, is a kind of a watermark year for me. I turned 50. I was expecting a gasp. Like, how could he possibly turn 50? Look at him. I've been married 25 years. A few months ago, I turned 50 in about a month. So I spent a lot of time this year looking back. Hey, what was good, what was bad? I'm way ahead in some areas compared to what I thought I would be, and I'm way behind in some areas. I go, how isn't it easier in this area at 50 years old? I've been saved a long time. It should be easier. Now, many of you don't know our story. We've only been here a couple of years. Angie's a children's pastor. We have 3 kids. They're 21, 18, and 17. My 2 girls are in Texas. They're the ones that are 18 and 17. My son is up running the slides today. He's something else. Caleb is something else. He's a blessing from God. Not because he's perfect, because he's not perfect. He's more like his dad. But because of how we've seen God work in his life. Whenever Caleb was young, he was our first, at 2 and 3 years old. We're like, okay, there's something there. What is it? And it's just things that you see, things that you notice. And when he was 4, he was diagnosed with autism. That's back before autism was cool, by the way. That was before everybody said, ooh, I got a kid with autism, get me something special. It was hard. But we had an OT that was sent by God, an occupational therapist. I mean, she's a spirit-filled lady from the Elks Lodge right here in town. And she walked in and she said, I know this is scary, because it was scary. But I know what he has, I know how severe it is, and I know how to make it better if you'll do what I ask. Now, everybody says I'll do what they ask, but it's not that easy because it involved over 10,000 hours of therapy by us. It involved a lot of money, a lot of things, but we did it. And we partnered with God, and Caleb did his part. I want to say that. Caleb, every grade, he worked harder. The things are just, every year was harder. Relationships were harder. He worked at it. Things that come naturally for most of us were hard for him. But he's a true success story. I could tell you a lot of stories. Some of you have heard those stories, and it make you laugh, and it'll make you cry. They're great stories. But the reason I tell you all this is because what I learned. It was in my 30s that I started studying Caleb's diagnosis. The signs, the symptoms, the emotions, the feelings, the things that scared him, the sounds, the things that he saw, the struggles that he had relationally. And I realized, oops, I had it too. I knew I had some things when I was a kid. I knew I was scared of things, and as I read through it, I'm like, uh-oh, I had a very similar form. Mine was more on the side that they now call Asperger's, because words are easy for me, numbers are easy for me. Some things are very easy for me, but my goodness, Angie and I talked at length about it. Now, when I was born, remember 50 years ago? That makes it 1971. There were no therapists. There were no books. There was nothing to help my parents. So they prayed a lot, and they did the best they could. But I carried a lot of that into college. I carried a lot of that into my marriage. And you might say a whole lot of that into my marriage. I carried a lot of it into ministry. But it shaped who I am. Now, those of you who know me now can't imagine the frightfully shy 21-year-old that was scared and faking his way through every time, every situation, every class. The anxiety was overwhelming so many times. I remember getting up to preach. Oh, my goodness, it was a tough day. Now, I did it. I pushed through like my son does. But as I look back, I say this because I have a story. I have a story. Some would say, oh, you were just a late bloomer. But no, if you talk to my wife, she'd say probably in his 30s he really started understanding and feeling that. I feel at 49, I'm just starting to feel comfortable. Now, I still struggle in some situations. I really do. And I have to really process that. Okay, y'all are sitting there going, whoa, that's more than I wanted today. Why did he say all that? I'm done with that. I say that because I view the world differently. I look at things differently. Things that come to me, and I'll be over chuckling in the corner, may not make you laugh because I just see things differently. So I want to share some of my insights right here before we get started. I'm going to share 4 things that over my years of ministry, it may sound like, I'm an old man now, so I could yell, get off my grass. You know how that works? Frank knows. Right, Frank? Get off my grass. So I'm going to tell you 4 things that are true, that are always true in every church I've been at, in every group of Christians I've seen. These 4 things hold true. I've seen it thousands of times. The first is trust is earned in drops but lost in buckets. And what I mean by that is your marriage is lived in drops. Every day you get to put a drop in. Some days you're very good. You were a great husband. You were a great wife. You get to put a few drops in. And you're building up. But trust is lost in buckets. You do something stupid in anger. You have an affair. You get arrested. Boom, that thing's empty. Trust goes away like that. I teach my kids that. Hey, guys, y'all got to understand. One stupid thing, and you're all the way back to the very beginning. And that goes in marriage. That goes in your job. That goes in your relationships with friends. Trust is lost. Hey, in church, I've had so many people, Pastor, I know we've talked about this, had so many people say, well, why don't they let me get up and say something? We don't know whether to trust you. We just met you. Well, you let him. We've known him 30 years. He's a pretty good guy. We trust him. You have to build trust over time. Okay, the second thing, and this is one of my things that I just think weird about. Number 2, pretty much everybody is easy to get along with until they aren't. You can talk to almost anyone and it goes well. I've met people, I've talked to them, I've known them months, I've known them years. But at some point I hit what I call a landmine. We'll be talking and going through life together, and all of a sudden I'll say something about an issue and I'll hear click. All right, what did I just do? And how do I get out of here without them exploding? Because I can tell this is their issue. This is their thing. Now, it may be politics, it may be tithing, it may be how you spend your money, it may be marriage, it may be how you raise your kids, how you treat your spouse. It can be a lot of things. But everybody's easy to get along with until you step on that landmine and you hear click. And almost everyone has one. There's very few of you that don't have any issues. Raise your hand if you don't have any issues. Okay, good. We're in the right place. Number 3, this is true, and it just says hurt people hurt people. People that are wounded wound others. People that are hurt. You know, a lot of people call these bowling ball people. Have you ever heard that? They roll. Imagine a 16-pound bowling ball. It don't care what it hits. You step in the way, what happens? You get hit. It's not that they dislike you. They just hurt you. That's what hurt people do. Now, the 3 biggest hurts in church, to me, I could be wrong, but unforgiveness, taking offenses, and bitterness. I see that in 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds, people that have been saved 70 years. I see some bitterness. God says, work on that. Work on those things. And those are the things I see. The 4th thing, frequency is what I call it. And I've had people over and over and over and over and over say, well, why doesn't God speak to me? Why does he speak to me like he speaks to him? How do you know God's speaking to you? How do you know these things? Well, God is always speaking. God desires to be near to you at all times. That's his goal. You're the one that changes the station. You're the one that changes the frequency. So an easy way to explain this is, everybody used a Wi-Fi signal most of you have on your phones. A simple way is take the Wi-Fi. In this building, for our staff, this is the fastest internet I've ever had, period. It is amazing what we have here. Sitting right here, I mean, I can download things unbelievably. But if I walk out that door and go into the next building, I can barely get a signal. And if I walk into Corbin, nothing, it's dead. Now, did the broadcast change? Did the signal strength change? It did not. What changed is I put walls between me, I put distance between me, I put sheetrock, drywall, building materials, electric conduit, and space. And that's the same way with you and God. Well, I'm not hearing him. Well, what'd you put between you? I guarantee you he didn't move. He didn't change. But that goes, you just wouldn't believe the amount of people that don't get that.